Besties podcast.
Hey guys.
Welcome to Brunch with Besties
Hi.
podcast.
Hey guys. Jeez.
I am Sherry Renee.
And I'm Chanel.
Our mission is to heal and help others as we heal and help ourselves through purpose-driven conversation.
Yep.
Today we're talking about relationship goals.
We are.
Relationship goals part 3.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully you guys have been reading the book Relationship Goals by Pastor Mike Todd along with us.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into that, we're going to start like we always do with a toast.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and give my toast to all the Black brothers and sisters in the world. It's just a really hard time for our community. I'll start there. And that's as far as I'll go. But, just sending some extra love and support to all Black men, women, and children during this time, for sure.
Yes. And my toast goes to those who are hurting and suffering, those who are related to the people whose lives were taken in a very short span of time, and also to the rest of the community who so desperately needs a healing. And then lastly, to those who are assembling themselves together to do something productive and hoping to initiate change.
Mm-hmm.
So let's break bread.
Okay.
How are you? Break bread.
Yes, thank you for asking. I love that. So I will say, I think since our Superwoman discussion, so if you haven't checked that out, check out that video. The full video is on YouTube. So make sure you listen to that. But just really being intentional about checking in on people. So how are you doing? So I love to hear that. So thank you for asking me that.
Of course, awesome. My
bestie. Yes, but I'm not gonna say I'm okay, because I think that would be the lie. And after the Superwoman conversation, is you got to be real with how you feel.
Yeah.
So I am not okay. I think I'm in a state of shock. And I'm a little angry for various reasons. It's just a lot at one time. And I think for me right now, it's a lot of information overload. It's a lot of just varying opinions coming from every which way, and just too much is overload for me right now. Like, I feel like I'm having a sugar high or something. Like, it's just too much at one time where I'm just like, oh my God, like, get me out of here. So I'm just, trying to get my mind together, because I don't want to be angry. That's not a great feeling to feel when you're just mad and you're enraged and there's really nothing you can do about it. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to, at this point, like, just keeping my phone turned off, staying off of social media, just for my own well-being and, sharing love and support. So I'm glad we're here today, because I feel the love, and, being around somebody who I love dearly is really helpful, because, girl, yes, it's a mess. So how are you doing?
Ciao. Same. I was really struggling yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
We all, so at work, we had we're still working from home. So we had a live virtual call, and I did not get on the camera.
Wow.
And they're like, Sherry, we want to see your face. And I'm thinking, no, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
My coworkers did bring up the incident, or at least the latest incident, and they expressed their sentiments and concerns and all that. And same thing, like I am in some ways, I'm hurt,
mm-hmm.
But I'm also disappointed in my own community due to the reactions.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of things that don't make sense, a lot of contradictions. Like, we can't say things about a group of people and then act the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard. It's a hard place to be in, because you want to acknowledge people's pain and people's hurt. But what I'm only seeing is really anger.
Yeah.
And I wish, or at least I hope, we can get to the point where we can acknowledge that we're suffering, that we're hurting, that we feel unworthy, that we feel invisible, and that it's just not this anger that I'm seeing. And I'm very concerned about some people having large followings and platforms where they're encouraging behavior that's not productive, and people are sort of blindly following them. So if you are a leader, and, we're both leaders, I would challenge us and others to lead people, be cognizant of where you're leading them.
Yeah.
Because, it's almost like, I don't know. I don't want to dwell there.
Yeah.
I don't want to dwell there.
No, I definitely get what you're saying. It's a lot.
It's disheartening.
It is. I agree. But in the words of Killer Mike, who I think he said it beautifully. Like, we need to plan, prioritize, strategize, and mobilize. And I think once we do those things, that we'll get the outcomes that we're looking for. So we really need to be cognizant.
And I really pray that we can honestly do that, because I think that we're not clear on our agenda, because we have a lot of people like Killer Mike who are saying things like that, right? Like, let's come together as a collective. Let's decide what our priority is. Let's get clear on what the objective is. But then there's others who are, sort of insinuating that we should do other things that just aren't productive. So we got to get clear on what our issue is and what we're doing, because now the issue has turned to looting when the issue is really racism. I don't even want to talk about looting. I don't want to talk about violence. Like, the issue is racist. It's racism, but now we have to stop and talk about peace and love. And, we got to get everybody together, because of all the things that are going on. It's taking away from the issue. Yeah. And I want us so bad to really focus on the issue. Now's the time to focus on the issue. Looting shouldn't even be a thing.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely some points where it's taking away from the larger issue. But yeah, we have to plan and strategize and mobilize. And that's the bottom line. So hopefully, like Sherry Renee said, we can collectively get together to do that immediately, expeditiously. In the words of T.I.
Also in the words of T.I.'s ASAP. He made a whole song about it, okay?
For real, ASAP.
So that brings us to the tip. We are reading Relationship Goals by none other than Pastor Mike Todd himself. I hope that you are reading along with us. You can read with us for free. And by read, I mean listen.
Right.
Via Audible. Using our free 30-day trial, www.audibletrial.com/BWB. BWB as in brunch with besties. The link is always in our bio. Yes. Click that link, free 30-day trial, read along with us.
Yeah, get that. But don't be alarmed, because it's not Mike Todd reading the book, but, just give it a listen.
Give it a listen. Give it a try, child.
For sure.
Okay, so that brings us to tea time.
All right.
Relationship goals. We're looking at chapters 1 through 3. So, initial thoughts. And it's funny because we've been following him for a little while now, I will say. And he's done a series of it as a sermon for quite some time. And we would always watch it. Like, when a new one came out, we were like, oh, let's share this. Like, let's watch it. And it's been really powerful. So I think the book kind of really aligns with a lot of what he spoke about in the sermon. So I thought the book would have been, just me personally, my own personal opinion about the book, but I thought it was going to be some like new stuff. But I feel like it was very much aligned to what he talked about in his sermons, which is fair. Like, hey, write a book about it. But in any case, I really like Mike Todd. I like the perspective that he brings as far as like being real and candid with his own experiences, and then not making it so gospel-y, if that makes sense to anybody. But I really like how he puts and frames things, which is really good. So my initial thoughts were, okay, like, I like this. It's definitely a book that I'll have in my own arsenal, as I am a single person trying to, eventually become a married woman. So it's helpful. It's a great tool to have in your toolbox. I would agree. And as you always say, if you ain't married, you're single. And so, hey, that's me.
Hey, that is
I'm not married, so I'm single, right? And I agree. It is really just a collection of the things that he discussed in his sermon, and it's organized, and it's in a way where you can digest it and refer back to it.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's the beauty of putting it in a book. And it's great. He monetized it, right? He just said, hey, this is my content. Y'all loved it. Let me give it to y'all again.
Exactly. He ain't wrong.
He ain't wrong at all. But yeah, so the first chapter is called Taking Aim. So he talks about how there's this sort of idealized idea or picture of a relationship, and how people always do hashtag relationship goals, et cetera, and how there's a problem with that. And the problem is that it's a mirage.
It is. And I would agree. And it's funny because as I was re-listening to this chapter, I actually wrote a blog about this too, like relationship goals. I don't remember what the blog was called. I'll have to go back and tell you guys. But I remember writing that nobody's relationship should be your goals, because you don't really know what they got what they've been through to get where they are. You don't really know if what they're showing you is a facade or not. Like, you don't know the truth. So I know people see Beyonce and Jay-Z, or, you know, even Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. We see them and we're like, oh, they are goals. But I don't know if when he would have came and picked me up in that yellow car with the hole in the floor, I would have been like, oh, no, I'm out. So, you know, Michelle stuck through that and she stayed through that. And I don't know if I, you know, would have done the same thing. Who knows? So I always say that, like, there are no relationship goals. Like, the relationship goal that you should have is within yourself. And I think Mike Todd alludes to that too eventually, like, love yourself and love your relationship with God first and foremost.
So he does talk about how having a relationship without any aim is senseless, and having a goal without God is pointless. And he said that, you know, if you don't have goals, you'll just date people aimlessly.
Yeah.
And you become more of a recreational dater.
Yeah.
Have you ever been a recreational dater?
You know what? I have not. And I have not been a dater. And we talked about this on my live chat. Like, what is dating? Like, it's a word that we use very loosely, but what does it mean? It might mean different things to different people. So I just started dating, to be honest with y'all. Like, this last relationship was the first one where we actually dated. Like, he would make plans, he would pay for them. So and I've never been the type to date multiple people. That's something that I'm trying to work through right now. Just not being so tied down to one person and, you know, dating multiple men. But that's always been hard for me, because I feel like if I vibe with somebody and I like somebody, like, I want to be with that person. So to be honest, Mike Todd, no, I'm new at dating. Dating is a whole new ballpark for me, for sure.
Yeah, he later talks about how dating is not well defined now, and how sometimes it means talking, sometimes it means dating, sometimes it means Netflix and chilling and whatever.
All that.
But he's saying that, you know, if you don't have an aim, you tend to just do so just aimlessly. And so it could be with people that just show interest in you. And I know I've never been that type of person to really just like date whoever likes me.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I typically say no anyway, like the first time. So it's a complex.
No, hey, you are good at it. Like, you just be like, no, I'm out. I don't want to do this. And it's funny because I'm like that too. But then it'll be like 5 dudes that'll like show interest and be like, oh, I like you. But it'll only be one that I'll have that same like interest for, that I'll be like, all right, well, I'm gonna choose him. And then the other dudes, I'll just be like, no, like, I don't want to do it. So
right. So he also talks about how we have lists and how we need to throw the list away.
Ooh, Kobe.
Yes. And really focus on a target. So he's saying that with goals, we get to really discover who we are and so some goals, he gave some examples, might be like, okay, I want a relationship with depth. I want to forgive my father. I want to, you know what I mean? Like, if you're single, you need to work on the current relationships that you have.
Yeah.
And I know that, like, my relationship with my dad has been a big thing. It started when I started to try to repair it back when I was in college. And that was sort of a big to-do for me. Like, okay, I want to work on that relationship. And then there's been other friendships that I was like, okay, I need to work on this, or I need to end it. You know, I need to figure out what's serving me and what's not.
Yeah. And I think that's very great advice, to set those goals for yourself outside of like making goals and plans with somebody that you're trying to build something with, because then it could get a little blurry. Like, is this benefiting me? Or, you know, like, the lines are blurred at that point because you're not defining it for yourself. So I agree. Definitely, you know, working on my dad issues, working on my finances, which has always been like a consistent one for me. And, you know, holding on to those things so that I can work on before I get in whatever relationship is to come.
Yeah, same here. And too, I think when you are trying to do the work while you're with somebody, the lines get blurred in terms of what you're willing to accept. Because you might be like, oh, I would never want a guy who does this, this, and this. But then when, you know, if you get to know somebody, you spend enough time with them, it takes you longer to leave.
Yeah.
So you start justifying the things that they do. Like, oh, he doesn't do that often. Or maybe, you know, you just sort of justify it. So it's not clean and clear.
Yeah.
He talks about before, has a section called Before the Person. I think that's chapter 2.
Mm-hmm.
Child before the person. And he says that relationships was and forever will be before they were the thing that existed before anything.
Mm-hmm.
So before we got here, there was a relationship between God, the Father, and the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And so we know that God values relationships and that relationships are actually blessings. But he talks about how, therefore, all relationships flow from God.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
Just me being my own spiritual journey. I think that was very important because he stated this a lot, like your main and core relationship should be with God. And I think he goes back to Genesis, where he talks a lot about like God made Adam single first. Like, we don't know a timeline of how long he was single before that helpmate came, but we know that he spent some time being single. We also know that God gave him a job. Like, hey, I need you to do this so you can,
tend to that garden.
Tend to that garden. So this is your goal for right now. I need you to look after this garden. So I think that that's very important. And it for me in my own single journey, which is why I think this is a great time and that we're reading this book, because I'm definitely trying to find that really deep connection with God. And yesterday, I wanted to look on somebody's Instagram page and kind of snoop around. But
girl, I'm just playing.
Well, on Brunch with Besties, we keep it real.
So go ahead.
So I definitely it's tea time. Listen, I got some piping hot tea. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I definitely wanted to look at my ex's Instagram page, and I was curious to see, like, oh, what's he got going on? But then I was like, girl, get to your Bible. Like, first of all, you missed a couple days. Don't judge me. Like, I'm doing my Bible in a year, and I missed a few days. So I was really like, no, like, do this. Like, stay on the course. Because I think and God knows the relationship that he and I have, or he or she, or whatever you believe, the relationship that I have with God is very like interesting. Like, I'll start very strong and I'll be in my word and I'll be really serious about it. And then a guy comes along and I'm like, all right, God, thanks. I got what I needed. It's been real. I'm just focused on this. Right. So, and I think what Mike said and what you just said, Sherry Renee, is very true. Like, you need to focus on the goals that you have for yourself before you invite somebody else into that, because those lines can get very blurry. So now I'm losing focus on what I said I was going to do, and I'm letting this person take up my time, or I'm trying to help them figure out their purpose and their goals. So then I'm putting myself on the back burner. So yeah, I think that's very important to have that initial relationship with God and what that looks like for you, because I think it's going to build a strong foundation that you have this wonderful foundation and relationship with God. And then hopefully whomever God has designed for you has that same relationship and foundation, or not the same, but they have their own relationship and foundation with God, and they both come together. Like, that's very powerful.
Yeah, he also said that it's impossible to be successful at relationships without God. And then he sort of challenges us to examine the relationships that we have. Does this relationship help me?
Yeah.
Does it deplete me and rob me of my joy? If so, then it's not from God. And I was like, okay, let me think about this.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for how things have turned out in my life, as far as, because there were some relationships that were very depleting and just did not serve me and had your girl very far away from a place of peace, but I'm glad now. At the time I wasn't necessarily glad, but now I'm like, girl, peace is priceless. Peace is priceless.
You never lie.
And I mean, I'd rather be single for the rest of my life.
Listen.
If I have to give up peace.
Who sang that? Monica or somebody? That was a great song.
That's not a song.
Oh, it's not?
But, yeah, that is. Okay. But it ain't got nothing to do with peace. Okay. But in any case. So he also talks about how Adam has purpose before they get together. And so I called Nadia and I said, so Nadia used to be on Brunch with Bessie's podcast early on, one of the original members and also one of the founding members. And I called her because she got married at 23.
Yeah.
And her husband was also 23 and now they're 33.
Yep.
And so I called her and I said, you know what, I have a question. So she went and got Miles and I'm like, ever since we were 14, you said, I want to be a nurse. Now, you didn't change your job 17,000 times, but you've always been a nurse, a traveling nurse, a nurse practitioner, all kinds of nursing, whatever. But you still have always been a nurse. And ever since I met Miles, which was freshman year in college, he always wanted to be an educator, right? And so he's done different roles, but nonetheless, all still, I think he's an assistant principal now, so all within education. And so my question to them was, do you think that that's what allowed you guys to come together? Now, obviously there's other factors that go into a relationship, but do you think that you knew enough about yourself to know your calling and your purpose? You know, and then I said, is that why your other friends, aka me and you, are still single? Right? Because we have ventured off and have done different things. I think now we're starting to come back to some of the things that we initially said we wanted to do. And maybe there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's a different path and a different time. And maybe there's some things that we needed to learn along the way. So I'm not even saying that it's in vain, but I'm wondering if that's one of the key differences between her and us.
Gotcha. That's a great question. What was their answer?
Initially, she said, like, oh, you know, I think there were other things. You know, we both really were, we both had the same goal in terms of getting married, right? Which, like he said, which he says later in the book is a relationship is transportation to somewhere, right? It's not the goal. It's not like I want to have a man, like you want to get married. So, you know, and I think that that's vital too, right? Is that you're aligned in terms of where you're going, and they shared the same core beliefs, is what she also said. But then when I asked Miles, he was like, absolutely. Absolutely. I knew that whoever I picked they had to be sure of who they were, you know?
That's good, especially coming from the guy, to know that was important to him. Like that was a part of his prayer and his design for the wife that he wanted, you know, like she has to know who she is. And I'm sure he prayed about it and God led him to Nadia. Like that's where I'm pretty sure that was a huge part. Like, that's great to hear that. And I didn't even think of that, but that is very true. Like they have been very consistent in, you know, their purposes.
Like they still changed a little bit in terms of progression. Like, oh, I'm a nurse. Now I'm a nurse practitioner. Now I'm a traveling nurse practitioner, whatever. And him, you know, kind of climbing the ranks in the education system. But nonetheless, they've been true to their core and true to who they said they were. Now, you and me, we've just been out here just doing all kind of stuff.
We have been. Like, I fell into education, honestly. And that was because I had a kid. So I was like, I like to watch my son learn and grow. So this is what I would like to do. Like, this was a great calling for me. However, you know, broadcast has been a passion that I've had since I was a little kid, like since forever and ever. So to come back full circle to that, now that we're podcasting and we're on YouTube Live and, you know, we're doing more events of me getting to talk to my singles in the city chats, like that's full circle to be like, this is really my passion and my purpose.
Yeah, so someone posted on Facebook the other day pictures of us from
high school. Maybe that was senior. No, that was the end.
Oh, that was the end. Okay, yeah, so 17, 18. And you're right, because we had majors, right? And so I think I said I was majoring in mass communication and journalism. And I was going to go to either Marquette, which I went to, or an HBCU, Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. And you said that's the typical answer for every HBCU.
I swear it is. Everybody says true. Mass communication.
Right.
Everybody.
That didn't work out.
That's just the plan.
Right. Then I changed it to journalism.
And you was like, I'm out.
And then I found out that they didn't make no money. And I said, I can't do that. No.
Not going to Marquette.
Right.
So, yeah.
Then eventually it became economics, and that's what I graduated in. And then an amazing, iconic company called and asked me to come work for them. And I went there, and I've been in supply chain ever since, right? But then to your point, now I'm talking about changing careers completely, doing something completely different. And now, like you said, you and I are doing this whole podcasting thing. So,
yeah. It's always going to come back to you. And I think you said this when we were texting each other, like your purpose is always going to come back to get you.
Come back.
You can try to take, these different roads and routes, and you want to take the expressway, or, you want to do this, but God he's a jokester, and he like, all right, do whatever.
Right, he like, fine, go ahead.
Right. Do whatever you want to, but just know I designed you to do this, and you're going to come back
crawling
to that.
back on your
Absolutely.
ashy little knees.
Yes. You're going to come back. So, I got time. I ain't got nothing but time. Right. So, yeah. And it's funny because mine said broadcast communication. So I was very specific with the communication that I want to do, because that was a dream. Like, I can remember being a kid playing with my cousin, like we were on Jerry Springer, or like playing like we were talk show hosts. Like, that's what I wanted to do. That has always been in me. Mm-hmm. And then to see that, I said I was going to Florida A&M. I ain't had no other schools. I was going there. That was it. That's it. That's it. Period. I was going there. Period. Pooh. But I didn't. I went to Marquette, and then I had a son, and that really, while we were at Marquette, we started to work for a pre-college program. So that was my like introduction to
we did
high school kids.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, we did all kind of stuff.
We did.
Think about that. Like, we worked for a pre-college program. Yep. There were other jobs that were just jobs. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like we did that. And then like I worked at an accounting firm. Yeah. And then I worked in an IT department.
You did.
And then I did taxes. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, just all over the place.
All over the place.
And then I went, then I did supply chain. Yeah. And then I stuck with that because they said they would pay for that MBA. And I said, well, look at the Lord.
Look at God. Listen, won't he do it?
Right.
Listen.
But here we are. Broadcasting, journalism, mass communications. Okay?
All together.
Here we are.
It came right back on us. So just, when you think that you really don't.
But it's so the reason why I asked Nadia and Miles this question is because he specifically says your person is on the other side of your purpose.
Mm. Gotcha.
And that's what made me think, was that a key driving force for them? Like, maybe they couldn't communicate it or articulate it at the time, but was there something in them that knew who they were? Like, that doesn't mean that their marriage was perfect. It doesn't mean that they never have normal couple issues or whatever, but I'm saying, is that one of the core things that made them confident at such a young age to say, I'm going to commit to them forever because they know who they are. So I know who they are. You know what I mean?
And I think you're saying that, but more importantly too, like, they really know who they are, even if they are apart.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, It's not going to change or waver. Like, if Miles were to leave today, Nadia, like, all right, cool. I'm still a nurse. Like, I'm Nurse Nadia every day. Period. This is who I am. Yeah.
And Miles is
in the same way.
Yeah,
with
the
Miles,
same thing.
I'm an educator.
Whereas I wonder if you and I would have got married back then. Let's just say back then.
Hey, 23. Ooh,
so what were we doing at 23? Okay,
I gotta laugh.
At 23, I think I just started working for the company that I work for now. Mm-hmm. Right. So it was new, and I was actually in a contract role. Mm-hmm. And 2 years later, I got hired. Yep. And I remember my boss kept saying, like, oh, is this something that you think you want to do forever? Blah, blah, blah. And he was trying to tell me about different certifications. And I was like, I don't know, maybe whatever. Y'all call and y'all have a check and there's a recession going on. That's why I'm here.
Right. Just keep me on the payroll.
Right. And I was wondering if that was just a blessing or, something in disguise. And I do think it certainly is. And I absolutely love what I do.
Absolutely is.
Absolutely. But more of what I do is more so about relationships. And it's about helping people, right? And I think that that's my true purpose, right? Like I said, Sherry means love. There's 16 characteristics of love per the Bible. 1 Corinthians, it's patient, it's kind, et cetera, et cetera. I help people, right? I bring in through solutions, and my job is very much solution oriented. But I just wonder, would I have given up some things, and went with whatever the person that I was with was doing? Like, what I would have just been like, well, let me help them. Let me do them. What is your dream?
Yeah.
Let me make your dream come true.
Yeah, it's funny because that's exactly what I did. So at 23, I was a mom. JR was like 2. Okay. So this was probably the time, graduations were happening. My son's father was still in school. I was like, all right, you can finish. Like, I want you to graduate. And I kind of put my life on hold at that point.
That's a good point.
So it was really like, I want to make sure that you're successful and our family is successful. And Chanel wasn't in the forefront at that time. So I was a very different person. So I think if we would have gotten married, it would have absolutely been a disaster. As salty as I was about how that relationship ended or, what happened. But I think if we would have gotten married, it would have been a mess because I wouldn't have known who I was. I didn't give myself the opportunity to build that character that I have today. All the characteristic traits that I have today, I didn't have that 10 years ago. And it would have been a hot mess. So God be knowing.
God be knowing, as Bridget would say. So he says, first comes singleness, then comes purpose. One of the other things that he says is he references the famous song, first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes the baby and the baby care.
Yes.
And he's challenging that. And he's saying first comes singleness, then comes purpose, then comes dating, then comes engagement, then marriage, then love, then kids. And I was like, but the other song said love first. And he's putting love last. Almost last, right before the kids. Last. And he's saying because in order to have the love that the Bible talks about, that better be your spouse. If you gonna be patient, kind, forgiving, not keep records of wrongs, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And I heard other people say that marriage is really a decision. Because there's a lot of people that love each other, but they're not married. There's a lot of people that care about each other, but they're not together.
Yeah.
So it's a decision. Yeah. Love is every day choosing
to make the choice. Every day to stay. I totally 100% agree with all of that. And I also think that I like how he put love after marriage, because I think marriage is such it changes. Like it never remains the same. Like it grows as you grow, and it needs different things at different points in time. So when you first decide to get married, you're not going to know everything about how to love this person at that moment, because throughout the entirety of your marriage and your life, essentially, like you're continuing to grow and evolve, and that's going to forever look different. So love can't be first because it's forever changing, if that makes sense.
I was thinking that love has to come after marriage, because before then it's not really love. You know what I mean? Because like you said, you haven't experienced everything.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're committing to. You might know some elements of that person, but you haven't seen them at their complete worst and complete best and all that. In some cases, I guess if you're engaged for forever, then maybe you have.
Right.
But truly looking at the person, and like you said, things change. So somebody could lose their job. They could develop a habit.
They could get hurt.
Anything could happen. And then you might have to be the one to take care of them if they get hurt.
Yeah.
So I think it's easy to say love, but I think in marriage you demonstrate it.
I agree. Yeah, love is an action. Like you have to do that. So I think that we're so used to what society told us love was and what that looks like, that we go into it thinking that, love is the key to marriage. But in the words of Tina Turner, what's love got to do with it at this point? Like it's so much more to that. And, love is the factor that's going to forever change and evolve throughout that. Now I'm not married, and that's probably why I'm not married, because I'm still, first of all, learning to love myself. So I think I don't even have that piece. So God be knowing, like, you don't even fully, love yourself at times, and you're questioning you as a woman, and you're growing in that. So how can I say that I love somebody else when I still have independent work to do?
He talks about the S word, child. This is chapter 3.
Yes, child. The S word.
The S word is single.
Single. It scares some people.
And he says that it's the most important part of your relationship with other people is your singleness. And I was like, how so, Pastor? Help us understand. But he said that if you are in a relationship, any problems that you have, you could probably trace them back to your singleness. And he uses examples of people being practicing infidelity. And he's like, well, it's probably because you're trying to be married and single at the same time.
You don't build those characteristics.
Right. And he's like, there's certain things that you just didn't learn. You don't truly understand yourself. And he talks about in your singleness, you need to understand your strengths. You need to build on them. You need to work on your purpose. And he even says that the more you understand and know yourself, the more secure you are in
Yeah.
a relationship. Because to your point, if you leave me,
Mhm.
I'm still me. I'm still a bad chick,
Yeah, I'm
y'all.
still be good out here
I'm
in these
still a
streets.
bad chick,
And
right?
I still know who I am. There's no question about
There's
it.
no question about who I am. And I don't feel like I've lost everything.
Mhm.
Because, remember Pastor David Burris said, if you don't know your purpose, your mate becomes your purpose.
Mhm.
And then if they leave you, you become devastated.
Child.
Right? Because your whole purpose in life is
Was
to be
that
with
person.
them.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And I was like, that's true. That's why you won't have a problem saying, oh, okay, it didn't work out. Okay, that's fine.
Mhm. Yep.
Because I'm still me.
Still me.
And I was whole before you.
Exactly.
And like you said, in the case of Nadia and Miles, if something were to happen, we're pretty sure that Nadia would still be a nurse.
Absolutely.
And
like
Miles would still be doing his work as an educator.
Still walking in their individual purposes. So
yes.
And I'm sure they have a family purpose of what their family structure is like and what that means. But individually, those two collective pieces, they're very firm in that foundation of who they were. And I'm sure it grew as their marriage has continued all of these years, and really being firm in who they are, which is really like commendable for them that they're so focused on that goal of what their purpose is, which is really great.
Right. And then I even brought up to her our friend Governor, right, and his wife. And I'm like, things haven't exactly worked out perfect for them career-wise, but they're both, Governor and his wife, are very committed to singing.
Yeah, I think that's their purpose.
Yeah, and it's like, no matter what, I don't care if I got to do this other job to pay the bills, I'm still a singer.
Yeah, they always find their way back to it.
Exactly.
For sure, that's their purpose. And
it's a common theme throughout their life, and
that
they're individually
so
together and their marriage.
Yeah.
Like their whole wedding was like a daggone opera.
It was funny.
It was beautiful, but it was an opera.
And that's true. That's probably why we out here with no husbands.
Yes. We gotta commit to our purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to get firm in that. That's so interesting. That's great.
But he also talks about the whole concept of love and how, the first 3 commandments, right? Love God with all your heart, with all your soul, blah, blah, blah. Love your neighbor as yourself. How can you love a neighbor if you don't love yourself? And I'll say that's good because whoever your mate is your neighbor. And if you don't have self-love, you can only give the level of love that you have for yourself to somebody else. And I thought that was a really good point, because how do you love yourself? And as we were talking on the Superwoman panel, which is found on YouTube, we will link it in we will definitely link it in the description. But if I put myself last, I'm teaching you to put me last, right? If I tell you that I'm going to be serious about purpose, I'm going to study, I'm going to commit to something, and then I don't do it, I'm telling you, you don't have to commit to me.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? If I'm last on my list, I'm telling you that I'm not worthy of being first.
Absolutely. And those were all lessons that I had to learn, and I'm still learning through, because I just noticed that piece about me. And I think to dig deeper, like I had to go a little deeper. Like, why do I put so much, or put my partner on a pedestal? Like, why is it that I'm treating this person like they're the end all be all? And it was definitely stemming from some daddy issues that I need to work through. So it's always going to show up. So if you don't know why you do certain things in a relationship, the single season is your time to discover that. Like, it's not gone again. Adam didn't know how long he was going to be single. God was just like, all right, here you go. But
and God said it wasn't good for man to be alone.
Exactly.
But he still had a single season.
Exactly. And I think that's when we talk about this S word, like, we want to rush through that phase. We want it to be over. We kind of treat being single like the plague, or like it's a dirty word. Like, it's not okay to be single. But I'm pro single every day and day. Like, enjoy your single season, because I think, like Mike Todd said, like Sherry Renee just said, like, it's gonna show up in your relationship. Any of those unresolved issues that you have, it's gonna play out in that relationship. And it might stem from the last relationship you had. It might stem from issues you got with your mama, your daddy, your sister, whatever the issues you have, is gonna show up in that relationship, because you have yet to resolve them during your single season.
Right. He also talks about that there's a difference between being single and being alone. Right.
It sure is.
So alone is more like lonely. Single is just your status, right?
Yeah.
And you can be single and have a full life,
Mhm.
right? And have the best time of your life. And he also talks about how dangerous it is to be broken and hook up with somebody, and even worse, to actually marry someone when you're broken,
Yeah.
right? And some people use marriage as a hideout
Yeah.
for their brokenness.
Yeah. They use it as kind of a band-aid to fix some whatever wounds that they have. But child, no, like it gives me anxiety to even think about that. Like, yes, I want to be a married woman. Like I think about it, I used to dwell on it a lot. Like it's definitely on my list of things to do. However, what's more important for me to do right now is the self-care, like the work that I need to do to be a better Chanel by myself in this moment. Because I'm just thinking like and I always ask people this, like, would you be happy if you married the person that you last slept with? Would I be happy? I don't think so. Like, I just think that, I'm going to say me, like, I wasn't the woman that I needed to be in that relationship. He can say however he felt, but that's how I felt. Like, I wasn't the right woman that I needed to be in that relationship. So, no, you should not take marriage lightly. It's not like a game or just to do something because you want to have the wedding. And that's where people get kind of caught up and twisted in. Like the dress is cool, the relationship, the reception, my reception gonna be lit, trust me. But there's more important foundational pieces to that. And the hugest one is me. Like I need to make sure that I'm right and I'm whole and I'm walking in my purpose.
Yeah. He talks about intentional versus recreational dating and how bad company can corrupt good character. And I thought that was a very good point to put a pin there because it's true. And I think that we do sometimes do a lot of work on ourselves and we want to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And then we might find ourselves with someone who isn't really aligned, who make excuses for them. And then we find ourselves doing stuff that we said we would never do, acting in ways that we said we would never act, and saying things that we said that we would never say. And he talked about in his own personal life, things were getting strong with him and Natalie. Natalie wanted to get married, and he was like, I need to go test the waters. So they took a break. They both slept with other people, and he's talking about how much that put a damper on their marriage. It was a 10-month
of insanity.
10 months of insanity, but it was in their marriage for 10 years. And right, exactly. And I know for me, like I've certainly dated people, and I remember this one guy, stuff that I would never say to somebody because I really try to be kind and be, of love. I didn't say, but I wanted to. Like I was close. I was real close. My lower self was about to come out.
Yeah.
And I was like, girl, you grown, you in your 30s, you can't be acting like this. You can't do that. You can't speak like this. And I was like, if this person really gonna take you there, maybe it's just not it.
Yeah,
if you have to find yourself acting outside of yourself, maybe this just isn't it.
Yeah. And and there are people out there that will test you and test you. And thank God you did not go to your lower self because that person didn't want it. They thought they wanted that.
Exactly. And see, that's the thing. Because I was like, now, whatever I do, I'm great at. So if I go there,
it would have been awful.
There won't be an apology in the world that I could ever give you that you would believe.
Yeah, no.
Because I will come strong. Yeah. So I was like, I just can't. I can't do it.
Sherry Renee go 100% on everything she do. So it was going to be a wrap for that man. So I'm glad that, God has a stronghold on you that you did not go to your lowest self.
I wanted to.
I know you did.
I even for a minute regretted that I did. I was like, I should have just did it.
I should have just
because you don't want this with me.
You don't get to do this to me. And here you go. I got something for you. It's wrapped up real nice.
But I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, I have to be who I say I am.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, people, when they reflect on their interactions with me, they can only say good things. They can't say that I belittled them, berated them, called them names. I may have wanted to, but I did not do it.
Yeah. What you're not going to say is none of that. Because
exactly. That would be a lie.
Yeah, it's not the truth. So that is interesting. Like, yeah. And you have to be careful when dating people or you're starting these new relationships. Because I think for me, like just being blinded by those red flags and what that look like, because they always show up. It's just being cognizant and aware of them, and to have the discernment to be like, this not serving me, so I'm out, like early on. And I know I've done that where I just spent too much time with people and, being around them and soul ties and all these other things where it's just like, I should have just let it go, because then, I wouldn't have to do as much work today.
Right.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the whole idea that dating is transportation? So, he talks about how, like, when you're at the airport, you'll get on the train to go to the next terminal, and how there's not enough seats because the point is for you to get off. It's not to sit, it's not to stay. But he's talking about how in relationships, some people date and they've been dating for 15 years. They've been dating for 10 years. They've been dating for 5 years. And he's like, you're not supposed to stay here. But a lot of people end up staying there.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, I'll bring up my own childhood of watching my mother, who dated a man for a very, very long time.
Girl, my mama did too, child. Yeah. My stepdaddy is not really my stepdaddy because they never got married. So, I mean, what is that?
That's what we know. So for me, like growing up, like I would always be like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to be with somebody forever and ever, and you're not going to marry me. Like that was something that I was just like, no, like I'm not doing that. And then, I met a guy in college. We were together 5 years, and then I was really in that point where I'm like, this is a long time to be with somebody. Like, we live together, we have the kid. Like Mike Todd said, we was doing it all backwards. We was trying to compete with the world to see how out of order we can do things, and apparently that's what we did. But I was on a girls trip with my friends, and I was just thinking out loud, like, man, like, what are we doing? Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, so it was really me, like, even though I was salty about the relationship, but I had to be like, let me remove myself. And if it's meant to be, if he wanted to be with me, we would have made it back. But eventually it just wasn't in the cards for us. But to be with somebody for that length of time, it was just unpurposeful. I don't know if that's a word, but it just didn't serve me. And from that point on, I still feel like I wasted too much time with other people, but it wasn't that length of time. But now I'm to the point where it's just like, nah, like I can't even let you in the door at this point, because I'm 33. People are not going to continue to waste my time, where I feel like I could just be living my best life by myself. Like, I don't need you to be a part of what I'm doing.
Right. And, he talks about how everything we do, we're supposed to do unto the Lord, and that includes dating. And he talks about, is your dating pleasing to the Lord? And I said, ooh, that's good. We should be dating for the glory of God, right? So he talks about boundaries. And I think that's a good way to know people's intentions, is when you throw up boundaries. Yeah. Because if you got a problem with boundaries, then you got a problem with me.
That's a lot. That's a big red flag. That's a stop sign. It ain't even a flag. That's the sign.
And he says, are they progressively coming into who God has called them to be? And number one, do they serve God? Like, does their life magnify and serve God? And I thought that was good, because I think a lot of times we'll be like, he goes to church, he read, you know what I mean? Like, people kind of do these box checking things, but in your lifestyle, does it really reflect God? Does our relationship truly reflect God?
These are all great points. And you can see that clearly when you're single, like truly single. Like, I'm not entertaining people. I'm not involved with people. There's no textuationships happening, like none of that, to really fully like understand like where I went wrong in the past, and then what I know I can fix now, because I'm not attached to anybody.
Yeah, and I did the same thing. I went on a whole hiatus where I was just telling everybody no and no for no reason.
Yeah.
It was just like, there's nothing that you did, sir, but it's still just a no.
This is just a no.
This is about me. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And I think that is where it is a lot easier to get clear on who you are. There's no distractions, there's nothing. And then you can focus on your strengths, and you can spend time with yourself, because if you can't spend time with you, should anybody else be wanting to spend time with you?
That's forever the word.
And some people, relationships are literally a high, like they're an escape. For some people, they just want to go on a bunch of dates and they just want to experience life, but there's no intention, there's no aim. And I know for me, like when I meet guys and they're like, oh yeah, I'm having fun and just enjoying life. I'm like, thank you.
Right. Good day. Right. Good day, sir.
Because what you're telling me is you don't have any purpose in this. You're not being intentional. So I don't want to attach myself to you.
And what does that even mean? Like
what it means is I don't have an intention and I do not have a purpose for this.
That's like annoying. Like,
and see where things go. Anybody who uses those keywords.
Yeah. Because I can
go ahead and enjoy life
by myself.
Go ahead and, see where things go. Have fun. Best wishes. I'm going to have a friend who I say is a serial dater. And, I personally think she's a serial dater, but some people they just want to have the experience and the whatever. And I'm like, but what's the outcome that you're looking for? Because I don't want to serial date for 3 years. And now I've dated 75 men, and still nothing. I don't even remember their names because there's so many, right? And what's the intention?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah, I was not built for that.
Y'all who want to have fun, do it with somebody who want to have fun.
Right. Find those like-minded people to have fun.
And even like on dating apps, if people have those descriptors in there, swipe.
No.
Swipe to the left. No, thank you.
Yeah, I'm out. And like I said, I've never been a serial dater because I get attached to people. So I can't even do it. Like I be wanting to. And it's just like, nah, I can't do that. But that's definitely a good point that you made. Like, no, just really be clear. Like, if this is what you're doing, all right, cool, good luck to you, but I'm gonna move this way. And that's okay.
Move on. Right, and that's okay. And it doesn't mean anything's wrong with that person. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means that you have different goals.
Yeah.
And you want someone who has the same goal as you. And I think, too, it's also important when you are meeting somebody, don't be afraid to ask, like, do you know your purpose? And then see, like, you got to see the follow through. Because a lot of people do a lot of good talk, but there's no execution.
No action.
No action.
Like, no action steps. Nothing. You just be like, all right, so you're just talking at this point. Like,
exactly. I mean, I can talk a good game, too.
Exactly, for sure.
But where's the fruit?
Nowhere.
That's how you really know the tree, right? Is you look at the fruit, because everybody's a tree.
Yeah.
And everybody claims that they're apples, but everyone is not. So.
Yep. No. And be real with it, especially when it comes to, if that's your end goal, to be married. So I guess that's the context that we're taking. If your end goal is to one day get married, I think these are really good steps and procedures and things that he lays it. Mike Todd lays it out so well that these are like things that you could apply to your life, like today, instantly. I can do these things right now. And I think being clear on what you want and being like expressing that. So I'm glad that you're running into men who are saying like, I'm just trying to have fun, like blah, blah, blah. Like, that's good. All right. Tell me.
Thank you.
So I can go. Right. Bye. Yes. Bye. So I can get out of here. I think for a long time, at least the guys that I were running to were not saying
But you don't know if you don't, well, they're not saying it. You have to ask.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
That's true. Being intentional, asking about it.
Yeah.
Well, in the sense of like dating apps, like they have to say that, like, I'm looking to have a good time.
But even if you're just meeting somebody, I think that you should ask them.
Yeah.
What is your intention? What are you looking to do?
And I'm glad that men are being vocal about what they're doing.
I think that men have always been vocal about what they're doing. I think that we have been wanting them to retake it and make it into something else that it's not. I think that if we look at all of our past relationships, they have said something that insinuated, maybe they didn't say it directly, but they had said something that insinuated that they were not looking to do anything. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, one day I want to get married. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just, having fun, living life. I'm just, hopefully one day I'll settle down. That doesn't sound decisive. That does not sound like a goal. That does not sound like an aim.
That's fair. Yes. Because thinking back, that's definitely conversations that I've had with men where it's just like, all right, but just say that.
Maybe it'll progress to something more. Okay, what is something more? Because again, that's very vague. That's not specific. So goals are what? They're smart. They're specific. If nothing else. So if you hope something more, no, thank you. I say no to those guys too.
Hey, and that's fair. And there are going to be women like me who you might not catch all of that. And you be like, all right, okay, just tell me that. Like, I need you to say what you mean and say it like clearly so I can make my exit.
They ain't going to do. So, well, some of them will.
Some will and
guys,
some won't.
will
That's
and some
the
won't.
point I'm making. Some will and some won't.
I think for me, I've gotten there by rereading my diaries, because I would write some of the things that they said, and I stayed, right? So for me, it was like, this was a cycle. They said this. So you start listening, because 9 times out of 10, men tell you exactly who they are.
They will.
If you listen.
If you listening. Yeah.
If you listen.
That is a word.
So since my listening game wasn't strong then, had to get it strong now.
And that's a word. That's perfect. Like listening, discerning, like those are huge pieces to this, for sure.
Time for the to-go box.
Geez, already? That went fast. Now we can see the time. That's pretty cool. But in my to-go box, I think I'm going to take away the singleness part. Now, I already told you guys I'm very pro-single, and I'll advocate being single to anybody, because I think that that's a very important part of your life, you know. And I kind of did my singleness out of order, where I've been single off and on for like several years, but you know, I had a kid. Like, I really didn't have the time that I feel like I should have had to be single, like earlier on in my development as a woman. So I'm kind of going backwards and doing that, being 33, to be like, okay, these are the characteristics that I'm growing in. These are the things that I know I need to fix. But it's all happening in this time. And I'm not really sweating or, you know, being pressed about, oh, I've been single for this long, or, you know, I haven't gone on a date, where it's just like, right now I can date myself. And, you know, even though quarantine has been hard, it's definitely been a blessing to be like, well, I can't contact you anyway if I wanted to, because it's a whole pandemic and I'm not trying to be sick. So it's definitely a good thing to be single, and don't, you know, let the society tell you otherwise, or don't let your family tell you otherwise, or your church or whomever to tell you like, oh, when are you going to start dating, or when are you getting married, or all this other jazz. But really take the time to focus on you. And this is for men and women. So I'm not just shouting this and praising this to women, because I feel like society tells women that they need to do XYZ by this time frame. But men too, like, really take the time to heal yourself, do some self-care, do the work on yourself, and, you know, be in your single season moment for however long it takes you.
What I'm putting in my to-go box is what Pastor Jerry Flower said, which is, if you make singleness a prison sentence, anybody is a bail bondsman. So you don't just want to be with someone, you want to be with the one, you know, whoever that is. And so I would say embrace the single season. Look at it as a season, a necessary season of your life. Focus on purpose. As you can see, we're getting back to our purpose, and I'm grateful for that. And embrace all your other relationships. Be grateful for them. Be thankful for them. Realize which ones are cultivating you and which ones are taking away from you. And maybe you need to do some work there, so that you know how to set boundaries and how to act appropriately when you are dating someone. Thanks for tuning in to Brunch with Besties podcast. Until next time, peace.